Let's slow down a little bit on the Arc Raiders hype train and let me tell you a story. A story how I found my favorite roguelike of 2025 because of a song. A song that has no business going this hard in this kind of game. And you probably know who I'm talking about. Mick. This guy is basically a genius, and when I saw that he released a new single with a game on the cover, there is a pretty high chance that I will try this game no matter what the genre is. So because we are already on this topic, let's talk about it. The main composer of the game is the one who created the soundtrack for Ori and the Blind Forest. They somehow invited 3 of the legendary video game composers. Each one of them has one boss that they did the soundtrack for.
So we had 3 guest composers on Absolum. Mick Gordon, obviously known for Doom, come in and do the track called Underking. As it's the first boss of the game, it is face-meltingly good.
Then Yuki Kitamura,
who is famous for her work on the Elden Ring series, and she added her own unique musical sensibilities to Morta Mima's character, who is a deeply conflicted boss.
And Motoi Sakuraba, who was also working on the Dark Souls series.
He has one of the hidden bosses. His music is definitely the most experimental and out there. Fans of his will definitely like what he's produced for the game. And
because of Mick Gordon, I decided that I have to try the demo. And after 15 minutes of playing, I'm like, nah man, I have to buy it. And it's been a couple of days and I'm already halfway completion. It says 50% completion, but I haven't beaten the game yet. But as they say, it's not about the finish line, it's about the journey. Each location in the game, and there are plenty of those, has their own distinct soundtrack, which gives the specific vibe. And damn, these vibes are when you get to the main bosses, the music, it hits so hard.
The music is actually sick. This like 1960s original Star Trek. God, the music for this part is so sick.
Oh, let's see what you got then. Oh, I wonder who made this track. Oh, that's so cool.
And especially how this blends with the overall vibe of the game and with the art style. This is definitely an experience that I did not expect that I will experience. Alright, so the game has a good soundtrack. Is that everything that it can provide? Right away, let me tell you, this game looks insane. It has this cartoonish comic book style that maybe can remind you a little bit of Cuphead, but it's more fantasy-like. The quality, the colors, the designs, especially the animations. When I'm playing this game, I'm feeling like I'm in a cartoon. If I will stop at any frame, it will look like a comic book page. You can see the face expression changing during each move. The sidestep has a different animation depending on the direction. And everything just looks so vibrant, so punchy, and just so organic. I cannot even explain. You have to see it yourself. One more time, I'm getting convinced that the graphics and the fidelity is not everything. The art direction is what matters. Believe me, the art direction in this game is top-notch. I looked up who actually was doing the art direction. It is this guy. And I also looked up who was in charge of animations. And it's these guys. When I checked their website, look what I found. The animated series. If they will create an animated series in this style, with these characters, which we'll get into a little bit later, because the characters in this game are pretty cool, I would definitely watch it. The developer said that the art direction was inspired by the comic book that is called Headlopper. I never heard about it, but when I check the images, I can see the resemblances. And honestly, it's very refreshing to see this kind of game without the procedural generation. Usually these kind of roguelikes with these kind of graphics, they rely on procedural generation. Here everything is handcrafted. But the challenge is that you have to make sure that each run will feel differently. And you have to do that with like the same locations every time. And somehow they managed to do this. First of all, there are different branching paths, which all have their own soundtracks. The designs, the colors, everything is very distinct to each area. But also at the same time, the enemies and the things that will come up during your run, they will change as you're progressing through the game. So I think that they did a pretty good job, and they experimented. They went the hard way to do this, and they actually managed to really make you feel that you know the locations, but you don't know what will you see in those locations in each run. I think the last time when I played beat 'em up game was when I was around 7 or 6 years old, and I played it on Sega Genesis with some other kids, and I honestly forgot about this genre. And when Streets of Rage 4 came out from this company, they are the creators of that, it received a lot of great reviews, and I wanted to try it, but I didn't get to it. And they actually came up with the combination of roguelike, which is a very saturated genre, and it's really hard to stand out from games like Hades. But honestly, Absolum, for me, it stands out. And now I have both Hades and Absolum on my Steam Deck. For the past couple of days, when I pick up my Steam Deck to enjoy some games, I gravitate towards Absolum, because something in it really grabbed me. Like the combination of the things, the art style, the progression, the characters, and most importantly, this beat 'em up genre part. They also added the dodge mechanic with the parry mechanic, and the combos, they look so sick. And during each run, you can find new abilities that you can implement into your moveset. When you're combining them every time, they look so great. They just look amazing, they feel amazing. Each hit feels so punchy, and you can feel when you do a 15 hits in a row on a single guy, you can feel it. You get this feeling like you get in the games like Devil May Cry, like all the fighting games where you hit an amazing combo and you do not even let the enemy to land on the floor. They will just stay in the air until you will finish your combo, and you can never finish it basically. I do not want to shit on Hades, but I was waiting for Hades 2 for a long time. I bought it in early access and I played it for 1 hour or so, but I decided that, you know what, I will not be playing it. I will wait until it will get released, and it just released. I played it for a little bit, and you know, it's an amazing game. I spent hundreds of hours on Hades 1, but when I tried Hades 2, I realized that it's basically the same game. It's the same gameplay loop, it's like a little bit different abilities, but it's the same art style, same everything, new story, which is amazing from what I heard. And I will definitely get to it at some point, but right now I just cannot stop playing Absolum. It really brings something new to the roguelike genre. The story is good. It's not on par with a story like Hades, where you really have some interesting discoveries while you're doing your runs. Here it's more basic, the corrupted world, a bad guy that killed everyone or something like. I just wanted to mention that I haven't finished the game yet, and I heard that the story in the later parts of the game really picks up, so maybe it's even better than I think. The story is simple enough, so if you will skip a couple of lines of dialogues here and there, you will not lose on the understanding of the whole narrative. They usually don't have so many lines of dialogues that you just don't want to listen to them anymore, you just want to skip. What I really liked about this game is to uncover some things about the characters that we are playing for, because these characters, they are, I don't know why, but they are so great, they are so charismatic. The design and the backstory of those characters, it feels like there is already an animated series on this whole thing. Calandra is a character that, honestly, the design can easily be Guts from Berserk. Actually, I think if they would ever try to create Berserk video game, it should look somewhat similar to this. And in this genre, in this art style, it would actually be pretty cool. Even Galandra's moveset really reminds me of something that I've seen in Berserk manga. The second character that we get is a dwarf named Carl. Deep Rock Galactic, anyone? Carl! We have an agile, jumping, running character that she doesn't even know if she's a woman, because she basically is like a doll, I guess. She has prosthetic arm, prosthetic leg, she doesn't remember anything about her past. But you can see that she's a woman, because of that thick ass. Shiny. And we can play as a wizard frog. Just look at this design. Best game ever made. Now, while we're here, I wanted to touch on something. We all love IGN, right? IGN recently did a review on this game. And the comments are, as they usually are on the IGN review, they gave it 7 out of 10. But most of the other creators or even IGN France itself or some other magazines, or how do you call them these days, they gave it 9 out of 10. And I completely agree with this. So we will do a real-time reaction.
They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again.
Completely disagree. F*** IGN.
Now don't get me wrong, I love a good old-fashioned somebody done the world wrong and now that somebody gotta die story as much as the next guy. But Absolum's problem is this particular version isn't that interesting, especially early on. Yeah, there are some compelling character moments, the general history of the world is cool, and some conversations enticingly imply more questions than they answer.
I didn't have wisdom to accept.
As we can see in all the similar kind of roguelikes, a storyline, you know, because this is a roguelike, you die, you resurrect, you die, you resurrect. He mentions especially it's bad in the first part of the game. Did he expect to learn all the lore and everything in his first couple of runs or something?
There's more going on here than meets the eye, but a lot of it is couched in a fairly generic fantasy setting. Dwarves live underground and they
fairly generic fantasy setting. I've seen reaction of some streamers when they looked at this map first time. Everyone was like, whoa. So generic.
A lot of it is couched in a fairly generic fantasy setting. Dwarves live underground and they delve too greedily and too deep, figuratively. Elves have a mythical lost land. The strong rule in many places, so you can gain entrance by beating up the current big boss, blah blah blah.
We must obey the strong. That's the...
Why he's so negative? Blah blah blah. Have you played like D&D or something? Those fantasy worlds, they all have similar kind of, not characters, but like goblins and lizards, and Baldur's Gate also has goblins and wizards and everything is fairly simple. So is it a generic and a bad game?
The story does go to some cool places eventually, and like Hades, you gotta play it to completion multiple times to see everything. But man, does it take a while to get there.
Is that bad, that it takes a while to get there? If this a while time that you spend with the game is enjoyable and interesting, is it actually bad? You paid your money and you will spend a lot of time for that amount of money.
It's good, then, that the playing part of Absolum rules. In a lot of ways, it's a standard beat-em-up with a set map and 4 different characters to pick from. Carl, the bruiser dwarf with a gun. Galandra, the elven knight with a massive sword. Cider, a nimble thief who is almost more machine than woman. And Brome, the frog-shaped spellcaster. Each character...
Brome, the frog-shaped spellcaster. Frog-shaped. Why he hates this game so much? It's a little froggy wizard which has a great design and a cool abilities. Frog-shaped spellcaster. Your mom is a frog-shaped.
I particularly loved the way so many of the characters' moves paid homage to the greats. Cider's gyro drop is essentially Ryu Hayabusa's Azuna drop. Many of Galandra's moves recall Devil May Cry's Dante, and so on. If you know, you know. If you don't, they're just cool moves. The big thing...
I didn't really notice Dante out there. Usually character will swing with a big sword in the same way. But what I noticed is, as I said earlier, some references to Berserk, especially with some of the ultimates. Not ultimates, but the special abilities, like the front spin swinging sword stuff.
Buying or finding some trinkets to boost your stats, or hiring a mercenary, or finding a chicken to follow you around and help out in combat, that stuff is great. What sucks is the parts of your character's kit have clearly been chopped up and segmented into upgrades called inspirations, for you to temporarily acquire during your runs. Galandra's dive kick, amazing, life-changing. The same is true of her 3-hit sword combo. She should always have it. She doesn't, only because this is a roguelite and we have to have something to upgrade. When you go from that 1-hit sword attack to the 3-hit combo, it's like being struck by lightning. The same is true of Cider's legally distinct Azuna drop, or her ability to dash through enemies. These are core parts of these characters' identities and kits. They shouldn't all be locked behind upgrades. The other
Well, this is the point that I am actually kind of agree with. Yes, of course, it feels not that great when you start a fresh run and you don't have the ability that you just used your last run, which you felt that is so powerful. And that's because you consider that ability like a part of your kit. Because this is the ability that you unlocked permanently and now it can drop during your runs. You can consider this a problem if you think that these kind of moves are not like boons, like in Hades. These are not power-ups, but these are your moves that you should have from the start. I just thought about it. It's like considering that all the hammer upgrades in Hades should be in your kit from the start, once you unlock them once.
problem is the persistent progression. Absolum isn't a game you're meant to beat on the first run. You're supposed to die. A lot,
yes,
while you build up the currency needed to acquire the permanent upgrades, and find the new paths full of rewards to get you through future runs. In both solo and co-op, I often felt like I was dying because my numbers just...
These paths that have a lot of rewards to get you through the runs, these paths are usually harder paths. So when you take them, you make your life harder.
This structure might work in a game like Hades, but there's very little narrative meat to chew on between runs here, and in a beat-em-up, a genre where you're traditionally able to get by on sheer skill, it feels bad to be a slave to the evil god of numbers. I genuinely hate it when RPG elements get in the way of my action game, and that happens a lot in Absolum's early hours. You always start in the same place, and you have very limited paths to choose from. That means seeing the same enemies, environments, and bosses over and over and over again. Yes, there are quests, and exciting new things do pop up from time to time, but there is a lot of repetition here, and Absolum doesn't handle it in the way that the best roguelikes do. In the early hours, I often felt like I was a broken record, testing that definition of insanity. Even the joy of finding a secret chest is dulled by the fact that it's always there, in the same place, every time. While the stuff you'll get varies and new things do get added, the map itself never fundamentally changes.
In terms of repetitiveness, that is the thing with this genre. With the beat 'em up. Do we play fighting game a lot? Do we play with the same character a lot? Do we learn how to do better combos, how to chain our combos in a better way, how to not take damage, how to do parry timing better, how to dodge sideways and then counterattack, how to do this whole pressure over pressure mechanic? In my opinion, it is not boring in any way.
There's not enough rogue to this roguelite. It can't just be a progression system. It has to be everything around that, too. And implementing that clashes with the way beat-em-ups work. It does eventually click. Around 8 hours in, my mastery and having enough numbers dovetailed, and I started to make more and more progress on each run. The jump was pretty substantial, and once that happened, I began to enjoy myself a lot more. On the one hand, yay, less repetition. On the other hand, I think there's something to be said for games that using mechanics and structure to reinforce their narrative. Dying over and over again while you work to take down a tyrant would suck. It would wear on you. I think that decision helps Absolum's story, but I don't think that the story is strong enough, especially initially, to earn that. It doesn't feel intentional. Instead, it feels like padding out a runtime that could, and should, be much shorter. And it sucks to feel this way because so much of Absolum is so good. When it hits, kids. It's beautiful, the soundtrack is wonderful, the combat has the sauce, there are cool build opportunities, and on it goes. But man, could I have gone without that repetition. There's a better version of this game somewhere that's about half of the 20 or so hours it took me to see the conclusion of the main story. Unfortunately, it's not the one we got, and if I wasn't reviewing Absolum, I probably would have bowed out before it ever clicked. My co-op partner did, and I can't blame him for it.
What? He is complaining that roguelike is very repetitive. Have you seen Hades? Have you seen Risk of Rain? Leave a comment if my comparison is wrong and somehow those games are less repetitive in some way. It's the same core mechanic, core progression. You play through the same locations with different builds all the time. I cannot really get why in Absolum he found it boring, because in Absolum you can actually lock in and learn patterns of each boss, of each enemy, and learn to parry, learn to dodge, learn to do the perfect timing, learn combos, which you cannot do in many other roguelikes.
Absolum is an excellent beat-em-up let down by a roguelite structure that doesn't suit it. I hate being limited by numbers instead of skill in action games, and in the early hours here, it feels like you're a slave to them. Once you get to the point where every run has you making substantial progress and the story picks up, Absolum is very compelling, but it took me a long time to get there. Gorgeous artwork and excellent sound.
Oh my god, a game where you have to spend 10 hours playing it and enjoying it. Oh no. Please help me.
Soundtrack and smart combat spread out among several distinct characters do a lot to carry it, but they can't fix the feeling of dread when I died again, and realized I would have to do some variation of the same exact thing.
As you do in all the other roguelike games! You die and you do it again! In the same locations if they are not procedurally generated, but either way they will look similar, with the same enemies, and everything will be the same. It's the nature of this genre.
Once more.
Death is just another step on your journey.
I'm not against failure. I just wish there was more variety to it, and Absolum doesn't find that until a good way into its runtime. That it manages to emerge as a compelling beat-em-up in spite of that is a testament to the skill and work of its developers, but it would be a lot better if it just got on with it. Unlike Absolum's heroes, I've only got one life to live.
He's complaining that he spent 10-15 hours on a game that he paid like $20 for, and that was an amazing game? I just cannot understand this.
For more, check out our reviews of Hades 2.
GameSpot said this game is incredible and has changed the beat-em-up genre for good, forever. 9 out of 10. And IGN Friends gave it 9. I don't agree with this review. Numerical score aside, I've beaten the game 4 times with every character, and it's not nearly as difficult as him. Yeah, honestly, it's not difficult and it's not frustrating to die in this game. It feels fair. If you do the optional tutorial and learn how to clash and deflect attacks, you can make it incredibly far. In fact, some parts of this review are outright incorrect about enemy variety and character progression. The further you get, the more of the game's content is randomized. One of the claims made here about seeing the same enemies over and over. I'll never forget when I started the run. Damn, spoilers. Fuck. Imagine moaning that dwarves go underground in the fantasy game. Yes, when the comments are better reviewer than IGN. It just sounds like he likes the game, he just dislikes the fact that it's a roguelike, which doesn't make any sense. Translation: I'm bad at this game and it's the game's fault. This review is really wrong, in my opinion. I think I wanted to make this video because this kind of game, in my opinion, is a piece of art. Because of the amount of great games that has been released this year or even these past couple of months, Absolum did not get the attention that it deserved. And I can see that the developers are sponsoring streamers that I watch. They are trying to do marketing. I can see the amount of love that has been put into this game, and I just wanted to succeed, so we could see more games like this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would suggest you to watch another video on this channel, but this is the first one, so for now I got nothing. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you.